Hello everyone, this is Ellie of Herbcraft by Ellie Apothecary. I'm here with your June Astro Insights, Highlights, and Luna Notes. This is a free offering I give the collective to pretty much touch on any dates you may want to know coming up, any retrogrades, any sign shifts, what sign the moon is in every few days. Feel free to get a pen or a notes app and prepare yourself to take notes if you are interested in using it for lectional astrology or just tracking the new or full moon. This is something I've been doing for a while on my IG. You can find all my links in the description box. By the way, I want to say thank you to everyone in the community. Welcome. This is a community I am building, and I hope you'll consider subscribing. After we go through the highlights and Luna notes for June, we will also do a psychic read on an oracle card. And if I have any shop updates or notes or, information about my services, I will see if I remember to do that at the end. If not, feel free to check out the description box and help yourself. All right, so Luna notes are the sign that the moon is in every few days. And this is important because that represents the emotion, the mood, the vibe that the collective is going through during those transits every few days. I do share this with my mutual followers on the notes portion of my profile. So if you want to be updated daily, I usually update it in the middle of the day. I'm here on the mountain in Northern California, so I'm going by Pacific Standard, but as far as the astrology notes for everyone, I kind of average, if I mention the time, the exact time of an event, I average it to kind of the Midwest. Honestly, most people don't actually care the exact time that signs change, typically, I've noticed, unless it's an eclipse. And no, we don't have any of those coming up till fall. So, no eclipses right now. Anyways, I average it, and I don't mean to exclude anybody outside of the States. If you're interested in having me mention your time zone in these future reports, please drop me a comment. I will definitely consider adding that. Alright, I am a professional astrologer, and yes, you can book with me. You can also get tarot or oracle. But again, I'll mention more about that at the end if I remember. So, are we ready? Before we get into June, I'd like to talk a little bit about May. By the way, this playlist is the astrology inspired playlist on my Spotify. I have my profile also in the description box, so I tend to like to play music a lot in my readings. It's kind of my vibe. I know that it limits who catches my videos sometimes, but I don't really care because I'm not really here getting monetized or sponsored, though I'm not opposed to it. So yeah, if you feel like being generous, feel free to check out my tip donation links in the description box as well. And I really, really appreciate it so much. Even like just giving the like button a tap is just human kindness, it does help the channel. So, alright, let's get into just the last couple things that happened in May, right? So, the Sun entered Gemini on May 20th to stay through June 19th. I've mentioned before that depending on where the sun is in the sky is what day each sign starts each year. So it may vary sometimes, right? And it doesn't mean that you're a cusp sign. If you were born, say, on the 19th, and that year, the next year, the sign season started on the 20th, okay? Cusp signs are not actually a thing. It's a misunderstanding about the house system in the birth chart. I have explained this in other clips, which you can find in my playlist. I will link at the end of this video. Along with our most recent collective tarot quest, which I believe was 888 Angel. If you're catching this out later in the month of June. It's a timeless reading, and I make it into shorter clips for your convenience in case anybody doesn't want to kick back with that entire quest, because they do tend to go long. So, yeah, if you're checking this out later, no big deal. Just adjust it to whenever. I tend to do 1 or 2 readings a week, so, you know, I'd love it if you'd hit the notification bell when you subscribe, and then you can keep track of everything. Alright, so back to the signs. Right, so cuss signs are not a thing. Don't get sad. It doesn't mean that you don't necessarily still have that energy in your chart. If you have your Mercury that not in the same sign as your sun sign, because it typically is, but not always the same as your sun, because they have similar transit speeds, right? The planets. Some of you may have the next sign in your Mercury, or maybe in one of your other top interpersonal, like your personal planets, right? If you're interested in me giving more informational astrology content, please drop me a comment and let me know about your interest, and I will look to see if I can make some more content for y'all. Alrighty. I hope that gives you kind of an idea. So this year, the sun went into Gemini on the 20th, okay? On the 24th, Saturn officially moved into Aries after being in Pisces since March 2023. It'll stay in Aries until September 1st of this year, when it will transit back into Pisces one last time, from then through mid-February next year, 2026. I will note that is because of the retrogrades, okay? Every planet retrogrades every year. Well, most planets retrograde every year. Some of them skip a year or half a year, okay? Depends on, again, their transit length. Most planets go through these cycles. It's not just Mercury, okay? And what they affect depends on the energy of the planet and the sign that it is in, right? Right. So it will go back into Pisces one last time until February next year in 2026. So its final stay back into Aries will last from then, February next year, until April 2028. Okay? So Saturn will be in Aries through April 2028. I will get into these bigger transits another day, just to be a little more concise in this video for everyone, or recording, whatever you'd like to call it. So this will be in alignment with Neptune in Aries during these transits most of the time, because some of you also know that Neptune also transited out of Pisces into Aries. Okay. Alright, so on the 25th, Mercury entered Gemini to stay through June 7th. Real quick shout out, if you are interested in hearing some of my literature, I did a poem last year for Gemini season, and you can find that in Words by Me playlist. And if you'd also like to check out my tarot and astrology, there's so many different playlists I have available to check out on my channel, so dive in and have fun. Alright, so that next day after, on the 26th, was the new moon in Gemini, okay? And we ended the month with the moon entering Leo. Now, at the time of me doing this recording, it is the 29th, so we're a few days after the new moon. And if you're looking to utilize the moon energies, especially a newer full moon, you want to look at the 3 days before the day of the event and 3 days after for utilizing those energies if you work with manifesting, okay? Or if you're doing healing work, right? I've talked about this before. If you want to bring in, you work with the new moon. If you want to get rid of, you work with the full moon, okay? So, alright, that's just some highlights from May that we came out of. Now we're gonna get into June, so this is what y'all really want to hear. I don't know, maybe you just want to kick back with me. I don't know what you want to hear. Tell me in the comments. What do you want to hear? feel free to drop a star emoji in the comments as well. It does help the channel. So thank you. It helps our community grow, which is amazing. Alright, so June. Here we go. On the 1st, the moon enters Virgo. The 4th, the moon enters Libra. Venus leaves Aries on June 5th and 6th and enters Taurus to stay until July 4th. And that same day on July 4th, Neptune in Aries goes retrograde. So for the states, the 4th of July, Neptune goes retrograde in Aries. Okay? The 6th, the moon enters Scorpio. And again, if I state something as a 2-day event, it's because it's depending on the time zones. So if it fell before midnight on the West Coast or after midnight on the East Coast, get what I'm saying? Cool. Alright, so then Mercury enters Cancer on the 8th to stay until the 26th. The next day, the moon enters Sagittarius, and Jupiter enters Cancer on the 9th to stay until June 30th next year, 2026. Just having a little bit of my shop tea. Calm Abundance. Are you drinking any tea today? Let me know what your favorite tea blends are if you do, or coffee. I like both. Anyways, so Jupiter typically transits in a sign for about a year. We just are coming out of Jupiter in Gemini, where we expanded on communication, intellectualism, local community, travel, local travel, and many, many other things that Mercury rules. Now it's moving into Cancer, which is the mother of the zodiac, or the maternal energy of the zodiac. And it's about nurturance. It's about many, many things that if you would like me to get into, I'd be happy to make a separate recording on. For those of you that are curious, I do occasionally do actual video form, not just ASMR. And I actually finally got myself a microphone, so the laptop recording will be of higher quality as soon as I decide to record on video again. Just thought somebody might like to know that, so I mentioned it. Alright, so yeah, Cancer, expanding in Cancer energies for the next year. I'll note that some of you have, and I keep getting called to mention this, one of my close friends has this placement, and they wouldn't mind me mentioning that, but they have the, excuse me, North Node in Cancer. Okay, so your North Node is your path of destiny, right? It can help you figure out your soul's purpose, and I can help you do that through a personal report. But I think this might really highlight those of you that have a North Node in Cancer, okay? And I touched on this, I believe, in one of the last readings, and I believe it's like the most, I think that's going to affect a lot of you that are in your 40s. I think especially when we enter midlife, you know, we kind of are in this transitory phase. But there are other generations that have this placement. Again, I can look at your chart and help you figure it out. But my whole point of bringing that up is Jupiter expands, right? So there's going to be a huge emphasis for those of you that have a North Node in Cancer in expanding into your destiny. Okay, it's not quite the same as a nodal return. Right now, the nodes are in Pisces in the North Node, and Virgo, it's polar opposite in the South Node. So we're looking at our collective energy there. Again, that's another bit of information I can share in another video. If you are interested, please let me know. Because everything I do is inspired, okay? I keep my own timeline, and I do consider my community in what projects I decide to dive into based on demand, really, and inspiration personally, okay? So, I hope that little tidbit helps somebody. Let's get back to the report here. The full moon in Sagittarius will be on June 11th, super early in the AM for the States. Again, if you're tuning in from another country and would like me to include your time zone, just let me know. I'll consider it. I used to do expansive time zones and reports on my IG and my old blog on Facebook, which I don't really interact on anymore, but it is still up if you're curious. Same name as the shop, Herbcraft by Ellie, or Herbcraft by Ellie Apothecary. So yeah, the early morning of the 11th of June, Sagittarius full moon. And then later that evening, the moon does transit into Capricorn. Now, you may wonder, like, okay, if you have a full moon or a new moon on a day and the moon changes signs later in that day, does it still have the energy of the full moon? And the answer is yes and no, and yes again. And I say that because a new or full moon's energy typically lasts at its most potent, obviously the day of the event, within 24 hours of it. 3 days before, as I said earlier, or 3 days after for working with the energies the most strong, or just observing the energies when they are most intense in the collective, right? Because not everybody works with manifesting. I do talk about that a lot on my channel. I dive into the woo-woo quite a bit. So hopefully you'll enjoy that as well. If not, no big deal. Thanks for stopping by for the astrology. So a new or full moon also can last the energies its full cycle. So right, we transit into a new or full moon every 2 weeks. By the way, I just noticed it is, I thought it said 12:12 on the clock, but it's 2:12. So that could be a synchronicity. Yeah, it's definitely synchronicity. Anyways, my I'm also, I don't know if I mentioned this, a psychic medium empath, so I pick up on stuff all the time. It comes out in my readings quite a bit. But anyways, some of you also like to keep track of the moon cycles for environmental factors. So there's all kinds of reasons to keep track of these things. So 2 to 4 weeks is a typical cycle for a new or full moon, because every 2 weeks it shifts from a new or full moon, and there are 4 quarters in every month phase, right? It's about every 28 to 29 and a half days that we go through a total lunar cycle, okay? So it depends on your preference. You can either just observe it the day of, the few days leading to, or after. I'd say after is more potent because you've already entered the energy and it's still lingering. But if you're building up to something, then before, if that makes sense, if you're working with the energy. But if you're looking for the next most potent time frame, it would be the 2 weeks, right? Waxing or waning phase. And if you are looking to just observe it for the entire lunar circle, then of course it would be about a month, right? I don't know if you all can hear, but there are ravens out over the ridge in the background. Oh, they're coming in closer. They're a couple of my spirit guides who visit me daily, so I just thought y'all might like to make note of that. That could be significant. Again, I pick up on synchronicities and whatnot. Alright, so I hope that helps you understand a little bit more about lunar cycles. If there's anything else you'd like to know, drop me a comment. Appreciate it. So again, if a sign changes later in the day, right, it's still got the energy of that newer full moon, because newer full moons are more potent than just a transiting sign throughout the rest of the lunar month, right? Because they are most impactful when they are full or new, right? So we'll still have that energy carry over, but then our present time would be also colored on top of that by whatever the sign transited into, okay? So with the full moon in Sagittarius, we're talking about, again, its rulership is Jupiter. So there's going to be a lot of Jupiter influence with the full moon on the 11th of June because of, again, the Jupiter going into Cancer, right? So there is a complementary energy there about expanding with the mother archetype, whatever that means to you. It could also just be a feminine archetype. It doesn't actually have to be a mother, right? It's everything that mothers represent. Again, we can talk about this another time. I just thought to give you an example. So if that's the main emphasis for pretty much the couple weeks after the full moon event, so going into what, the third week of June, and the day of that event of the moon, the full moon, with it moving into Capricorn later, on top of that, you would have almost this polarity energy because Capricorn, the sign that it's going into later that day from Sagittarius, happens to be Cancer's polar opposite. So there is an opposition there between the energies of the mother and the father. So I feel like there is going to be some expansion into that for some people in the collective as far as looking at traditional family figures or feminine and masculine energies within our domestic lives, either past, present, or future, right? It's a good time to think about how we can expand into it, whether you want to expand into healing your inner child wounds or expanding into what kind of family you are building or working towards, or expanding in how you can settle into a family unit, which could also be a soul family, right? Not everybody has blood family in their lives, and a lot of those of us that are in that category tend to have deep, loving connections with our closest friends and allies, right? So it's also a time to look at our friend circle and maybe look into different places we can expand into or root into, right? And especially I'll mention, and I was going to say here further, the 15th happens to be Father's Day. So, you know, for those of you who might have father wounds, you might feel some kind of oppositional effect on this full moon on the 11th. It's just something I'm picking up on. Oh, now we got the Red Hawks in the background speaking up. I don't know if you can hear that. That could be another sign or synchronicity for somebody. And I just noticed it's 217 on the clock, which is a synchronistic number or angel number, whatever you want to call it, for keeping your thoughts positive, thinking positively. So it's not going to be negative for all of you, those of you that have father wounds. I just thought I'd mention that because that's for somebody. I can't really turn the psychic downloads off. It just comes to me. So that's kind of part of my style. Anyways, keep your thoughts positive, right? Because we create our reality, and what you feed is what you receive. Remember that, okay? So let's go back here. And again, Father's Day it could represent any masculine figure in your life, and that masculine figure doesn't have to be a man. Just FYI, I'm not gender stereotypical here. I am very open-minded, and I advocate for people in the community who identify as something different than what they are expected to be, right? I actually, I've only recently started talking about this because my child is an older teenager, but I am a proud mom of an NB child, non-binary child, gender queer child, okay? And as for any other details past that, I won't dive in, but for those of you that are in the community, feel free to drop me a rainbow emoji or a purple heart to show your community love. I deeply appreciate everyone's support, though it's not required. And if you don't vibe with that, no big deal. I mean, happy hunting your astrology. There is plenty out there. This is a community here, and it's highly protected. So, yeah, I hope other people feel safe to feel included no matter how they represent. Okay? Or present. Okay. I just thought I'd mention that. It felt like it was necessary. So the 14th, the moon enters Aquarius, and Aquarius is all about being a nonconformist, so that was very appropriate, right? And then Father's Day, the 15th. The 16th, the moon enters Pisces. Next day, on the 17th, Mars transits into Virgo. Okay. It has been in Leo, so it's going into Virgo to stay until August 5th. Okay. On the 18th, the moon enters Aries. And the 20th is a big day. Okay. Get some more tea here. So the 20th, the moon transits into Taurus, and the sun enters Cancer. So that is when this year, the 20th, the Cancer season begins. Okay? But on that same day is also the official summer solstice. Now, for more traditional pagans, and I am pagan, but I am a non-denominational channel, all are welcome, but I do mention any sabbats that are coming up. All right? There are 8 of them every year, by the way. You can find out more by looking into the Celtic Wheel of the Year for those of you who are curious about following these traditional farmers' almanacs, so to speak. Okay? Because that is really what they were, is folk culture and farmers' almanacs. It's all based on the seasons. Anyway, so the 21st is a more traditional day to celebrate Litha, or Litha, depending on how you pronounce it, which is the pagan summer solstice, essentially. You can also make it a longer celebration and weave it into midsummer later in the week. That is the Germanic summer solstice, right? And it is actually customary to get up with the sun and to spend all day harvesting and to receive your best harvest and your peak harvest at midday, right? Midsummer midday is the most potent if you are spiritually harvesting herbs or whatever and want to be in the strongest part of the energies. So when the sun rises to midday, wherever you are in the world, and that is the 24th of June. Okay. But going back, the 22nd, the moon enters Gemini. All right. So we have the sun in Cancer on the 20th, along with the summer solstice. 21st is Litha. 22nd, moon enters Gemini. 24th is the midsummer celebration. And it is a day of full bloom when everything is at its peak. After that, everything tends to dry out depending on the part of the world you're in. So the next day, early on the 25th, is the new moon in Cancer. Okay. Then the moon enters Leo on the 26th and the 27th for the East Coast. And so does Mercury on the 26th. And it will stay there until September 2nd, right? It has an extended stay here because of the approaching Mercury retrograde in July coming up. So it has been in Cancer since June 8th, right? Which is coming up in a week and change. To wrap up the month, the 29th, the moon enters Virgo. So now I'm going to give you a glimpse into July, and after this we will go into my psychic reading on an oracle card. Thank you if you're still here. Leave a regular heart in the emoji, the emoji of a heart in the comments if you'd like to contribute. Or feel free to tell me if you've got any big plans in June that you feel comfortable sharing, that you want to talk about how these dates might align. If you understand the energies at all, I'd love your contribution. Alright, so a glimpse into July. On the 1st, the moon enters Libra. On July 4th, Venus enters Gemini to stay through the 29th of July. And again, Neptune in Aries goes retrograde on Independence Day in the States. And it is going to stay there because it is a slower moving planet. It's going to stay there till December 10th of this year, 2025. Okay? So 7-7, that's a synchronistic number, by the way, 7-7, that could apply to somebody. It is the pre-shadow 10-day phase for Mercury retrograde beginning, okay? And depending on the astrologer or the witch or the practitioner, whatever you want to call it, whoever's doing what, for whatever reason, they may consider the shadow phase, which happens before the transit and after, by the way, to be a different length of time. I personally recognize it as about 10 days. That's about correct for Mercury, okay? If it's a slower moving planet, it's going to have a longer shadow phase, just like it has a longer transit phase, because it takes it longer to orbit our Earth or the sun, or the planets, the solar system, right? All right, so sometimes the shadow phases can be even more chaotic than the actual retrograde. But I think for July's highlights, we'll get into that more. Okay? So just keep that in mind if you want to plan ahead. The next full moon in July will be in Capricorn, and it will be on July 10th in the afternoon in the US and surrounding locale. So for more details on the month of July, you will have to come back when I publish that video. And I hope you do. I really do hope you subscribe and you like this content. I do have a more laid back way of going about things. I do not edit my content except for when I am doing side messages from my long form Oracle Tarot content. And I do that for people who don't enjoy long form, and also so specific messages can get out to the collective. Okay? So speaking of, let me see which deck I want to work with. I have Kim Cran's Archetypes, and I also have the Medicine Heart Oracle. And I can read from the book afterwards, but I prefer to just read into the energy and see what we have. And I'm being called to archetypes first. I'm going to shuffle, so turn down the volume if you want. Kim Cran's Archetypes. Psychic read. This is a message for the collective for the month of June 2025, or if you're catching this separate oracle later, it is a timeless message as well. Wow, interesting. Okay, so Eros just came out. I will use descriptive audio for this, and I will also make the image of this card the pinned image for this video. You can also find it on Pinterest or in my IG stories. So Eros is a type of masculine planet of love and desire, right? And this is a black and white card. Could be a synchronistic number for somebody. The card is LXXI. I believe L is 1,000. Correct me if I'm wrong. And of course X is 10, so that'd be 1,020, and then I don't remember what I, 1. It's 1. Duh. Okay. So 1,021. Also could be 1 to 1, synchronistic 1 to 1. One-to-one conversations about love and desire, perhaps, for some of you coming up in June. Maybe the kind of love you desire, especially when it comes to nurturance with all the Cancer influences. Remember, we're still in Sun and Gemini until, the third week of June, so there's still a lot of emphasis on communication. And Eros is a very fiery energy. It's also very misunderstood. It's can be profound passions that some people don't understand. I just thought of Venus in Aquarius for some reason. Maybe some of you have Venus in Aquarius in your chart, because that would be an interesting placement that I'm pulling on right now, that energy. One-to-one is also the number 4. So where are your foundations with love and desire? Again, this is a black and white circular oracle card. In the center of the card is a grayscale collaged piece of a picture of what looks like a feminine mouth and an inserted, what looks like a diamond. Again, deep, high contrast, black and white. Diamond looks like it was placed inside the collaged lips, pursing it, holding it. It's a desire that is reformed. It is a desire that has been pressed and molded and shaped and is impeccable. However, this desire may not be as valuable as it appears, because diamonds, while are highly desirable, their worth is actually not as brilliant as it seems. So for some of you, you might want to look at your disillusionment and ways that you have fooled yourself with your desire. That's coming through for some. So outside of this cropped mouth with the diamond in it are these speckle outbursts of black dots, and it looks like, it's kind of like chia seeds, very minuscule little black dots around this cutout mouth, which is kind of almost like a triangular shape, wobbly. But these little spatters of black grains are just, it's like bursting out everywhere into a complete white background, except for the line of a circle around the font of the card, right? Maybe look at how black and white thinking has impacted your desires. Look at how it has spread out into the ethers, how it has affected others. That's coming through for some. The only gray area in this card really is the mouth. It's the object of the desire, right? So some of you, if this is about love or just the way you love or desire, and again, it doesn't have to be about love, it could be about other things you love and desire and value in your life, right? A lot of Venusian energy coming through with the Eros, of course, celestial energy. Eros is a asteroid in your birth chart. Might help to better understand, if you know a little bit about astrology, to look at where your Eros placement is. But yeah, the only gray area is the object of the desire here. So for some of you, you're not really sure how to navigate what you desire. And I hope you're not actually trying to navigate anyone as if they are an object of desire, because that can become tricky. And for some, this is not all, and definitely not most of you, toxic, okay, or unhealed ways of going about obtaining your desires, and it can make you feel murky. For some of you, I'm picking up that there is a absence of desire. that you felt very bland for a long time, and you want to branch out, you want to spread out, you want to kind of plant these little seeds everywhere into the vast unknown, but it's white, it's reflective, right? So remember, whatever you put out there is what you're going to receive back, right? The law of equivalent exchange, the law of attraction. I talk on these universal laws on my channel at times. I will have more content on that in the future. If you are interested in me doing a manifestation series, I'd be happy to dive into that in the future. Go ahead and leave me a comment if so. Just looking at the card and seeing if there's anything else that's coming through for everyone. Yeah, and this is a collective message, so take what resonates and leave the rest. And again, it's for the month of June, or whenever you find this message, you can apply it to your month ahead. Just some energies to think about, to focus your journal prompts on, maybe. I was just thinking about all the Cancerian energy, the maternal energy, right? The feminine energy. And Cancer is a cardinal sign, which means they go after what they desire, even though they are a sensitive water sign. And again, this is an energy, it's not necessarily specific people, okay? But the archetype of Cancer is also known as the Chariot card in the tarot, which the Chariot is driven by the Emperor, and they're usually moved towards something very fast. So maybe meditate on the Chariot card as a sibling card to this for the month of June. I might include one of my tarot decks, Chariot cards, with this image so you can compare and contrast. You might have another deeper synchronicity triggered. I also share all my tarot and oracle readings in the community tab of my channel. So if you don't want to hit the notification bell, just check back every few days on the channel community page, and I will share images from readings and updates with video links. And again, for those of you that prefer my shorter form side message content, I link all the completed videos in the original Tarot Quests or long form videos post there. So that's where you can find that if you don't want to just go to my Divine With Me playlist, which is my primary timeless messages playlist. I think I've got near 60 different readings there now, so have fun exploring. For some of you, you haven't really wanted to explore much because of feeling so neutral. Because Eros, I mean, desire. I mean, you think about it, dopamine, it's desire, right? And desire can be tricky. It's possible some of you have been too deep in desire before, and you've had to rigidly control yourself into this black or white way of thinking, or this stagnancy, or this gray area, in order to cope with your overwhelming passions. Remember that it's about balance, right? And that's easier said than done for some people, and it won't apply to everybody. But if you are able to balance your action, your receptivity, so your masculine and feminine principles, because Eros is a very masculine energy and Venus is a very feminine energy, and I'm picking up on Venus as well. So it's really looking at how do you balance those energies within yourself to have balanced desire. And again, you may want to look at your Venus placement as well. See what sign you have in Venus. If you have Venus in Cancer, even better, because of the Cancer energies. That's really going to be highlighted this month for you. You also can look at your second house placements. You know, whatever sign you have in your second house of your birth chart. Again, I'm a professional astrologer. I'd be happy to read your chart. Just check out the description box for more. You can also look at your Taurus or Libra placements. You know, what placements do you have, Libra or Taurus? And I discussed this in my Astro Highlights and Luna Notes full form video, which is a part of this reading. I will link that at the end of this separate oracle message for those of you only catching the oracle version, in case you want to check out June's astrology. But I talk about those kinds of things there. Some of you haven't felt desire for things in a very long time. But you know what you value, because we have the diamond here, and it's like being received in the mouth, or it's being placed, or it's being presented, however you want to perceive that. But it's like, also some of you may speak very beautiful, exotic, or passionate language. Maybe some of you are great storytellers, especially with the sun in Gemini. That could be an emphasis. Again, if you're catching this later, the energies that are circulating when I do these readings or these videos, it colors the experience, right? It's like that energy is captured, kind of like a photograph captures people's moods through visually. Well, astrologically, it captures when something is created during a certain time. And this is really good for some of you who want to manifest your desires, to remember these things. Some of you feel like your desires are wrong. We got Depeche Mode's, what is this, Wrong? I think that's the name of the song. Yeah. This is my astrology inspired playlist. I think I mentioned that in the Astro Highlights portion of this video. My profile is in the description box if you feel like checking out my music enthusiasm. Yeah, some of you feel like your desires are wrong. And I'm not here to say if they are or not. Only you know what is right for you and right for other people. And, you know, if you need help balancing, definitely talk to somebody you can trust. And it helps to kind of explore that. Maybe find some kind of support group in your community if you're struggling with your concept of desire. Some of you maybe just don't feel desirable yourself, or you haven't had people speak desirably to you. And I don't mean like hit on you or anything. I mean like, you know, intellectual desire is a thing as well. There are people who, and I'm not talking about sapiosexuals, excuse me, but that could apply to some, but we're not going to go down that road. Try to keep this PG-ish, yeah? So, but it could be about hearing beautiful words or speaking beautiful words, especially again with that Gemini influence in communication. Maybe some of you want to communicate your passions to others, and that could be a person, or it could be a group, it could be a society, it could be your work. Maybe that's, some of you have strong Mercury in your charts in your 10th house of career. Maybe you really shine in your career through your voice and how you speak about your desires and share that. Because language in itself is an art form. Communication itself is an art form, right? And also that makes me think of active listening, the other part of communication, right? If you don't listen to respond, you listen to receive. And this picture has somebody with their mouth blocked by this diamond. So some people don't know how to respond to other people's language. Some people may have a sense of a blocked throat chakra. So I would definitely advise that some of you look into throat chakra healing. One way you can transmute energy and work on your throat chakra, whether you are a talented singer or not, is by singing or humming or whistling, you know, some kind of verbal expression. And you know, there are some people in this world who cannot speak, who cannot express sound. And for those of you, if you happen to be here, which I like to include everyone, I am an advocate, then there are other ways to express your voice. And for some of you, it might be writing and communicating in that way and creating beautiful images in the mind through the stories you tell through your writing, right? The song title of this song is Bastet, and I'm getting Ancient Egypt. That's been coming up for me a lot. I don't know why, but I mean, I know why for me, but for some of you, you may want to look into ancient Egyptian culture. Perhaps the ways they dedicated and showed their love or expressed their love through their culture, through their music, like the song. Eros is also a very ancient energy. Perhaps it's how you speak to the ancient ones that you work with, if you work with energies. How do you venerate your passions to your spiritual team, to your deities, to your god, to your gods, goddesses? I was tempted to pull another card, but I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. Please feel free to give the video a like. It is a simple act of human kindness. And feel free to leave a book emoji in the comments if you enjoyed this oracle reading. And on that note, I think I will read a little bit from the book for y'all who actually hung out to the end here and see what they have to say. Again, this is Kim Cran's Archetype. It's part of the Wild Unknown series. I have all three. I have the Spirit Animal, I have Archetypes, and I have the Wild Unknown Tarot. I don't work with the tarot a lot. The deck hasn't really called to me as much yet. And I believe she's got another one out. I think it's the Alchemy deck. I really would love to get my hands on that one too someday. I'm a semi-minimalist, so I really am more about sustainability than variety, you know? Alright, so I'm not sure if I'll read this whole thing. I might. But it is on page 208 and 209. So 208 or 209 could be synchronistic numbers. 10, 1, or 0. 11. Okay. Eros, love as desire, eroticism, and sensuality. Woo! I said we were going to keep it PG-ish. Come on now. I'm just kidding. Alright. Plato reminds us that Eros can be experienced as platonic love. It is activated when we witness beauty and truth in the world, when our barriers soften. Wow, that's beautiful. Kind of like the dissipation of the grains in the image. That can also be seen as softening, because sand, when it's compacted, because it kind of could look like sand, is hard, right? But when it's spread out, it's soft and grainy. The ocean may be important for some of you, especially if you're looking at the Aphrodite side of Venus, which is another aspect of Venus. That's for some of you. Then over here, the book says, the Hindu goddess Lalita, quote, she who plays, end quote, can help activate Eros energy. She's also known as Kamishavari, or, quote, Empress of Desire, end quote. There's also, I'm seeing some Empress associations with this reading, so the Empress card could be another energy archetype to look at. The Ultimate Divine Feminine. Check out my Tarot Talk and Astro T playlist to follow. I think it's an 8 or 9 short form video series on the Empress with astrology and tarot that I did. Right, so when light, passion, playfulness, and sexual health, when dark, madness, projection, and obsession. Right, so I kind of talked about that in a way, like, also have fun figuring out your desires, like maybe look into a new form of a craft, because any form of creativity is an expression of desire, right? We talked about working with possible inner child wounding with the Cancer and Capricorn polarity energies coming up, right? So some of you, it might be important to give your inner child love by investing in play again. If you can't think of a way to play in a safe way, then maybe it's time for you to get creative and think about how you can do that. So there's another idea for you, okay? And again, here, the dark side of Eros, madness, projection, obsession, right? So some of you are subduing your desires because you feel like you cannot control them if you were to access them. And that's definitely something to work with somebody else, possibly professionally, if you haven't already, to kind of find out how to keep that in balance to where you can still enjoy life without feeling hindered by the shadow side. So shadow work might be important for some of you. I'll say sexual healing might be important for some of you. Again, I'm not a medical or mental health professional, but I am an advocate and a guide. So apply it to your life if it fits. If it doesn't, just let it go, okay? So to go deeper, Love Sonnet 11 by Pablo Neruda, or Basket of Figs by Ellen Bass. I like how she recommends different activities, songs, plays, books that you can really get into the energy. So definitely check those out if you're interested. So I'm not going to read the main paragraph here because, I do want to encourage others to support other people's work. And while this is a very popular deck, I'm going to leave it at that. And perhaps in another reading, I will read the main paragraph. And you'll get it then. It's a mystery. For some of you, mystery is intriguing and it is desirable, whether being or seeing it in your life. That just came through as well. Beautiful. I think we're going to leave it at that. And yeah, I'll give you some shop updates. For those of you that just came for the Oracle, thank you very much. I hope you have a great month, whether it's June or whenever you're catching this Oracle timeless message. Feel free to hit the like button or subscribe or share or comment, whatever you'd like to do. Appreciate you viewing, listening, checking out, whatever. You're awesome. You rock. And so do my subscribers. Alright everyone, so I kind of, as far as updates go, I kind of touched on some things throughout this recording. I am starting to get into the flow of offering 1 or 2 collective timeless tarot quests every week. And again, I'm sharing that in the community tab every time I publish the long form. I cross-post this on my Instagram stories the day of sharing typically. Except for the short form. Sometimes I don't share the short form till later on IG. But when I do share them, I also cross-post it to my Pinterest. And I have a decent following over there. At least I have a high view count, so people seem to enjoy my content. And, in this day and age where the algorithm can kind of submerge some people's content, it's good to have multiple avenues of expression, and that's good for fellow content creators, especially if you're looking to start something new. I don't know a lot. I'm a fairly new channel, and I take things at my own pace, so I'm not an expert on these things, but I definitely don't try to cover every social media platform like some people. So the main places you can find me is here on YouTube, on IG, and I'm not sharing as many posts as I used to. Most of my activities in my stories, and of course the Luna notes that I update daily. Okay. Last month I mentioned that I would be taking clients in June. So you have a couple options, and this is one of the things I wanted to touch on. First of all, I've decided I'm going to change my rates up near the end of the month. I am going to probably up some of my prices, and I am also going to include different kinds of services. Right now, the options is you can do one-on-one spiritual guidance sessions with me. That can include tarot, astrology, or advocacy. Again, not a medical or mental health professional, so I have to disclaim that I can't, that I'm going to encourage people to reach out into those fields if it's other matters. I'm here to help with spiritual guidance and share my wisdom, okay? And I expanded into doing tarot. Let's see. It's been about a year since I've been seriously doing the tarot. I think July. No, it's about this time. I don't know, June, July of 2024 is when I started expanding. And you can go back to my IG story hub, the Storagory, and yeah, I term that Storagory. And you can go back to it on my profile, and you can find a few different sections there where you can look back on the oracle messages. I also have one called Tarot Talk, and I share quotes and stuff over there. However, because I'm not really on a lot of platforms, I'm pulling back my energy from places that don't seem to get a lot of flow. So you'll probably see me sharing more and more gradually in the community portion of YouTube. I'm really grateful that that is an option now, because I am building a community here. Okay. Nope. There's my ravens again saying hello to everyone. So yeah, I'm still debating deleting my Facebook page, and I am not active on there at all except for cross-posting from IG. So if you're communicating with me on Facebook, it's probably not me. Just FYI. I'm not a typical person. I do not actually coast on media. I believe that if you're meant to see it, you're going to see it, and it's going to find who it's meant to find. And I also believe in spirit's algorithm, okay? And I also manifest. So I believe that everything reaches people at the right time. So I follow that in my receiving as well. Every now and again, I'll check up with certain people that I care about in my interpersonal relationships. But for the most part, it's whatever kind of is right there when I happen to be online, which is very brief, okay? So as my work transforms and my channel grows, I'm putting more of my energy here because this is where it's appreciated. And most of my work here is of service. So yet again, I do appreciate any tips or donations. If you want to buy me a coffee, I have PayPal and Venmo in the description box. You can also find my booking site. So if you'd like to take me up on either spiritual guidance, if you would like to take me up on just an astrology reading for birth chart, which is natal astrology, or electional astrology for planning, or tapping into the evolutionary astrology, going deep into the soul, we can do that too. My primary interest and focus is on natal, so your birth chart. Just tell me what you'd like. If you want, you can also email me instead of booking with me. I have limited time slots and availability, but if you request it, I can work with you. And if time is an issue, I'd be happy to simply do an audio recording. At this time, I am not doing video. Eventually, it'll be on my roster, but it's not something I am interested in doing. I'm able to produce more successfully on my time frame for the best quality for my community through audio recordings. So if you are interested in future video readings, definitely express your interest. Okay? And I will consider it. I will also consider special requests in the future to do a Zoom, a live. However, if I do an audio recording for you, you'll be able to access it again and again. So there is value in that. And again, my prices will be changing. I do find, however, that astrology readings are better for one-to-one engagement over the phone because it's much more interactive than tarot. With tarot, I'm tapping into your energy. I don't tap into the energies of other people around you. I'm not one of those readers, excuse me. You can kind of gauge that if you check out my work, my Divine With Me playlist. I try to do things in a higher octave, right? So it's more focused on your spiritual journey, right? Or your personal experience in life, okay? So that's the kind of style so far. And I'm still developing my style the deeper I get into the esoteric arts. And I look forward to really engaging more with everyone. If you have any other questions, just reach out via email. If you'd like to collaborate, if you'd like to have me on your podcast, if you'd like to check out my writing. Again, I will probably reshare the poem for Gemini season that I wrote last year, because I'm also a writer. I'll probably share that in the community probably the first week of June sometime. So if you don't want to wait for that, feel free to check out my playlist with my spoken word and poetry. Trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, I also have by request small batch items from my apothecary. One of the items I like to make is a natural herbal cleansing spray. I have a couple of varieties. One of them is called Bless You, and the other one is called My Sunshine. And each of them has different natural essential oils. I do not use alcohol in my products, but I do use other natural preservatives that keep them fresh for a long time. I also have pine oleo resin, which you can put into your salve or chest rubs or just use as a massage oil. If you're interested in learning more about the apothecary side of my business, definitely reach out or leave me a comment. Right now I'm focusing more on the intellectual side of my business versus the production side, okay? Because I'm really focusing on building this community right now. I used to focus more on the plant healing as an herbalist and on harvesting and sharing educational information about these practices, but again, I have rediverted my attention into more of the 5D versus the 3D. But in the future, I'll consider doing some tutorials and teaching y'all how to craft. Okay. See, I also make I have different loose incense blends that I hand mill using herbs. I have all kinds of goodies. If you go back to if you're on Facebook, you'll find a lot of my older offerings shared over there. Alright everyone, I think that pretty much concludes this for the day or night or whenever you're tuning in. If you found value in it, please hit the like button. Of course, you're not required, but it's easy. It's free. And, you know, energetic exchange is highly valuable. And when you give, you receive. You really do. So for every bit of kindness, not necessarily to me, but to anyone in your life that you express to, the universe is going to show that back to you. But before I start channeling a spiritual message, I'm going to leave it at that. One last note, I will probably be doing another, for real-time viewers, listeners of this video, I will probably be doing another collective timeless message over the weekend or beginning of next week. And today again is the 29th of May for those of you that were curious. Okay? Alrighty, many blessings. This is Ellie, signing off. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.